Well, ladies and gentlemen, today let me speak in English for those who live abroad, especially those who living in English-speaking countries, for a international understanding, especially coming out of Chinese Communist Party gatherings, authoritarian Congress, produced something, but not much change. Still keeping very aggressive stances toward international society, especially amid the competitive framework between Washington and Beijing. Melanie Hart, new Atlantist working at the Atlantic Council, produced a analysis paper with the title of 5 Takeaways from Beijing's Largest Annual Political Meetings. Overall analysis result is that not much changes, even though after Trump administration inaugurated. This week, Beijing concluded its annual 2 sessions, the big plenary meetings of the National People's Congress and Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. As we understand, the NPC is China's legislature and the CPPCC is a larger, more representative and largely powerless group that provide advice to the NPC. So in China's authoritarian system, this is the annual pageantry the Chinese Communist Party goes through to claim that it governs through the so-called whole process people's democracy rather than strongman authoritarianism. Right. Melanie Hart pointed out very well the characteristics of these 2 sessions, And in reality, of course, the party and increasingly the strongman at the top makes the real decisions, while the National People's Congress largely serves as a performative rubber stamp. And the pageantry is important, however, as it demonstrates what the party believes it needs to signal to its people and the world. And also, out of these 2 sessions this time, 5 notable signals stood out at this year's 2 sessions. Number 1, Chinese President Xi Jinping is still at the top of his power. It means that he's enjoying almost the emperor's position at the apex of his power. And he's continuing to control the Chinese Communist Party with all the authorities he could have as a head of Chinese Communist Party with all the military powers. So for all the pageantry, which as always included heartwarming footage of the people from across China marching into the plenary sessions, some in colorful indigenous costumes, This was a one-man show. The writer defined it as a one-man show. The signaling was as much about paying homage to Xi as it was about presenting the National People's Congress. Throughout the NPC, which included work report from major government agencies, major successes were attributed primarily to Xi Jinping. In contrast, major challenges were attributed to China's outside environment, which is often code for U.S. actions that constrain Beijing. For example, the National Development and Reform Commission, China's major economic agency, made sure to give Xi Jinping credit for his economic achievement in 2024, stating that we owe this achievement to General Secretary Xi Jinping, who is at the helm of charting the course. Beijing sees no need to pretend that Xi himself is part of the consultative pageantry. He sits high above it. And 2 points we have to understand is that there are 2 Chinese economies, and Beijing is betting on the stronger horse to pull the country through. At the macro level, If you look at Chinese consumer sentiment or at the Chinese industries, suffering from Chinese economic coercion, is triggering a wave of de-risking, so-called warrior diplomacy has scored multiple own goals. Now, however, Beijing sees Trump style as an opportunity to wipe that slate clean. This was clear throughout the Chinese foreign minister's press conference on March 7th, where he framed China as the responsible leader, providing certainty to this uncertain world and safeguarding the multilateral free trade system. Well, anyway, he said like that. And in a clear dig at the United States, he stated, those with strong arms and bigger fists should not be allowed to call the shot. He left nothing on the shelf, calling out U.S. rhetoric on Gaza and Latin America, stating on the latter that what people in Latin American and the Caribbean countries want is to build their own home, not to become someone's backyard. What they aspire to do is independence and self-decision, not the Monroe Doctrine. Also, some very important, writing on the economic issues. Several high-tech companies are innovating, and DeepSeek is one such company, and Beijing has milked that example to the max. When asked at a press conference on March 7th about DeepSeek and U.S. effort to hold China back in technological innovation, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi responded, where there is blockade, there is breakthrough. Where there is suppression, there is innovation. Where there is the fiercest storm, there is the platform launching China's science and technology skyward, like the Chinese mythological hero, Nesua, soaring into the heavens. So Beijing is betting on a bright light in the tech sector to pull its economy through the current slump. So emphasizing a new trend, advancing science and technology were major themes. Chinese leaders announced the launch of a new high-tech state venture capital guidance fund and committed to maintain high research and development spending. But what did not appear, as my colleague Jeremy Mark noted earlier this week, was any serious trend-bending movement toward supporting Chinese consumers and ramping up domestic spending. So Beijing sees United States President Donald Trump's strongman-style foreign policy as an opportunity to paint China as the kinder and better partner. Beijing is actually facing policy headwinds. China recently became the world's largest creditor and an increasingly unforgiving one at the same time as its outbound investment flows fell. That combo is painting China as an unpopular debt collector across the global south. So China is still very strong in this kind of economic sector, and combating climate change is not a priority there. The National People's Congress work report continued the trend seen since at least from 2019, when Beijing began to shift from shutting down and cleaning up its coal plant to viewing coal as its primarily stable source of energy. In the report, China committed to implement a coal production reserve system, and it will continue to increase coal production and supply capacity and consolidate the basic supporting role of coal. The report treats coal production as a resource security issue, separate from China's clean energy and environment and climate goals. And the last one is that Chinese leaders see no reason to change course. Throughout the two sessions, Chinese leaders applauded 2024 successes and previewed a 2025 plan that is largely steady onward course with some modifications at the margins. To the extent they acknowledge challenges, particularly economic challenges, they did not tie those to Beijing's own policies. Instead, they blame the United States and other outside forces, including a sluggish global economy. That does not bode well for China consumers or the overseas manufacturers struggling to compete with the outbound flow of goods. And China's factories are producing at overcapacity and unable to sell at home. And the Trump administration is rolling out wave after wave of tariffs on U.S. import from China, ostensibly to build leverage for some type of grand bilateral bargain. Throughout the two sessions, Xi Jinping and other Chinese leaders signaled they are sticking to their state-managed economic approach and view the United States as their biggest external political risk. This is very important. If anyone in Washington is still hoping China will put meaningful economic concessions on the table to buy its way out of U.S. tariffs, those folks are not paying close attention to the signals coming out of Beijing. That's right. Chinese Communist Party is still sticking to aggressive approach toward the international community, especially competing against United States established international orders. Chinese Communist Party will continue to challenge, if there is any room for Chinese Communist Party to maneuver, to take advantage of a changing environment. But there are many problems also. China's leadership, political dictatorship, is losing some legitimate ground in domestic politics due to too many economic hardships, and all the jobless rate are increasing among those young graduates from the universities and graduate schools, and the tension-ridden social atmosphere is increasing, not decreasing nowadays. All the risks and the challenges to authoritarian Xi Jinping leadership. You have to watch how they are going to solve it in the future. So, even though after Trump administration inaugurated in a new Cold War structure, the competition between Beijing and Washington will be continuing as it has been in the past, with not much changes, and it's a grave concern to all of us, how Chinese Communist Party will respond to Trump administration's very provocative approach in economic tariff issues, and some also military building up issues toward Chinese Communist Party. Thank you. This was an English diplomatic commentating for those Koreans living abroad who don't understand Korean. Thank you so much.